Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our fourth family education night of the 2023-2024 school year. This is one session in a series of 6. My name is Kristen Parson, and I am the IEP liaison for Northstar's Career Center. I'd also like to introduce Holly Peel, who is the director of the Career Center. At the Career Center, we work with juniors, seniors, and young adults with disabilities to help them build career readiness skills they can use as they transition out of secondary education and enter the workforce. You can learn more about the different fields that we offer programming in on the Career Center tab of Northstar's main website, or you can reach out to us directly. And we will be sure to post that contact information in the chat shortly. We are also very happy to have 2 guest speakers with us this evening who have given a great deal of their time and expertise to Northstar. Our first guest is Kelly McGee. Kelly joins us from the Courage to Succeed program through UMFS's Charterhouse School, where she has been supporting young adults with disabilities since 2013. In this program, and with her and her team's support, many Northstar alumni have been able to find measurable success in their post-secondary lives. Our second speaker is Paula Buckley. Paula has been working with the nonprofit organization GRASP since 2008. There, she works hard to help students and their families navigate the financial aid process and connect them with scholarship opportunities. Paula has worked with our students and families for 15 years. She is available to meet one-on-one with Northstar families to help them obtain financial aid information for post-secondary programs. Please keep that in mind as she speaks and let us know if you need any help getting connected with her. We also appreciate the support that GRASP provides to Northstar in the form of a scholarship competition that is awarded to one graduating senior each year. As you can see, GRASP is very much committed to their mission. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Kelly, and the rest of us are going to turn off our cameras. Please remember that you are welcome to chat any questions that you have, and that there will also be an opportunity to ask further questions at the end of tonight's presentations.
Thank you, Kristen. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And just give me a second. It was working fine, but now I'm having issues. Here we go. Okay. Great. So as Kristen mentioned, my name is Kelly McGee, and I am the program supervisor for the Courage to Succeed program at UMFS. We are a college and transition support program for students with neurological differences. So majority of our students have an autism diagnosis, but that is not a requirement for our program. But we do have students with learning disabilities, some anxiety, ADHD, many other neurological differences, but basically anyone that needs additional support in this transition age. So the various supports, we're a very holistic program, but the various supports that we offer are very individualized. So depending on the student's needs, we support them in different areas. So based on basically the areas that we offer supports are academic supports, psychosocial supports, independent living supports, and career and job supports. And in these areas, I'm going to go through and tell you a little bit more detail. So for our academic supports, we support at both Reynolds Community College and Bright Point Community College, so the local community colleges in the Richmond area. My colleague and I are on campus with the students 3 days a week, so Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We're there for academic and social supports, so if students need help speaking with an advisor or meeting with their professors, just working on those self-advocacy skills, anything that they need, we're there as a touch point for them to get those supports. We assist with course advising and registration. We are not advisors, meaning that we're not there to give them exact advice for which courses they should take. I've been with the program for 11 years now, but I am not an advisor working for the college, so I can't say this is the track that you need, but we can assist them in getting connected with their advisors and getting registered for classes. Also, if they're signed up for, say, an English class, we can recommend professors. So I've worked with the program for a while, and I know what professors work really well with our students. I'm not saying that there are bad ones, but there are ones that work better with our students as well. We connect with the accommodations office, so we have a really good relationships with the Office of Student Accommodations, making sure that the students are getting the accommodations and putting those in place and getting them to the professors so they can be successful in the classroom. Students also meet with me at least once a week to talk about their classes. We go onto their Canvas accounts and look at their class schedules, their classes, and make sure that they're staying on top of their assignments, breaking down larger assignments into smaller ones. Anything that may be overlooked. So maybe they had a deadline that was missed, but we're making sure that those second set of eyes are on the Canvas account. We also have ongoing contact with the college instructors. At the beginning of each semester, we have the students send out a letter to each of their instructors, talking about the Courage to Succeed program and letting the professors know that they're involved with our program in providing them with our contact information. Most of the professors will email right back and say, "Hi, nice to talk to you." And then we start that communication. So whenever a student emails a professor, they CC us on those emails. And if the professor is reaching out to the student, we ask that they also CC us on those emails to be a part of that communication. We connect the students with tutoring, both on the Reynolds and Bright Point campus, in addition to at UMFS. We have wonderful volunteers that work with us that come in and volunteer their time to work with our students in various subjects. So we make sure that they're getting those additional supports in those areas too. We also offer designated study hall times when we're on our UMFS campus. So that's on Tuesdays and Thursdays. We have 2 to 3 hours of blocks of time that we have study hall. So Emma, who's my colleague, and I are there with the students walking around, making sure that the students have what they need and are using that time wisely to get their coursework completed. We also work with them on organizational and study skills. So making sure that they're building those skills for future as well. Another area is we work on independent living supports. So I spoke about that self-advocacy piece. If a student needs to speak with a professor, most of our students won't go straight up to the professor and ask for help. So we can be there and support them, maybe help them navigate or help navigate that conversation, and then build those skills for future conversations to know what it is they need to ask for and hopefully be able to do it on their own one day. But if not, we're there to help support them. We also have a weekly independent living skills group. So I spoke about the Tuesday, Thursday programming on our UMFS campus. These are the days that we have several groups planned, and one of them is independent living skills group. We talk about anything from financial planning to household maintenance to we do the career and exploration and planning. So we might work on resumes and cover letters. Anything that you can think of as an independent living skill, we may speak about in our independent living skills group. Another piece is we do a summer internship program. So majority of our students, in lieu of taking classes during the summer, participate in our internship program where we are job coaches. So we help the students in the spring line up summer internships or part-time jobs based on their career interest, or if they want a part-time job just to earn some money. And in the summer, they're working or doing an internship in their area of interest with our supports. Another area is our psychosocial supports. So we have a weekly social skills group. My colleague Emma, who is a therapist for the program, runs this group. And not only just talking social skills, teaching social skills, most of our students have had these social skills groups their whole lives. And so that's kind of repetitive for them. So we do a lot of practice, a lot of activities that are putting these skills into practice. We also have a peer support group. This is a student-led group that the students are talking about what's going on in their day-to-day lives. I do not personally have a neurological difference, so I don't know what it's like to walk in their shoes. So our students are talking about things that are challenging for them and supporting one another. Hey, I had a similar situation. This is how I handled it. Or I'm just having a really tough time right now, and they can talk through that. So that's their group. They also meet weekly with Emma, our therapist for the program, in a counseling session. So this is 30 minutes to an hour weekly. And they're talking about anything that might be getting in their way of being successful. So they're young adults. Life happens. Things can be challenging, not only the college piece, but just life in general. So they can use that time to speak with her and use that as a counseling session. We have a weekly mindfulness group. So this is techniques on learning mindfulness techniques. So not just meditation, but finding out what works best for each of the students to let them live in the here and now and not be anxious about the past or the future. Another group that we offer is our healthy relationships group. So this is any kind of relationship. So anything from siblings to parents to peers to dating relationships. We cover it all just to talk about how to maintain or get and also maintain healthy relationships and find out what is a healthy relationship. We also have a current events group. We rotate our mindfulness and current events group bi-weekly. So our current events group, we try to stay away from things like politics and religion because we know those are touchy subjects. But we like to talk about what's going on in the world, let them know what's going on in the here and now. And so they might bring to us that they want to talk about a science thing they found in the news or an IT or gaming. So we like to talk about different things that are going on in the world and bring those to the group to have nice discussions. And also, we like to get the students involved in campus clubs and activities if that's something they're interested in. So each semester we go onto each of the websites, Brightpoint and Reynolds, and see if there's something that the students are interested in. And if they are, we help them connect with the staff or the faculty member that is in charge of that club or activity to get them in contact to be able to attend. And if they would like, we can go with them the first couple of times just to kind of get their feet wet. I spoke about a little bit about our summer internship program that we encourage our students to participate during the summer. These are just some of our past opportunities. This is a very small list. Like I said, I've been part of our program for 11 years, so this is very, very small, but we had some students at the Hilton Hotel working, the downtown Hilton Hotel, working in the kitchen and doing some maintenance. I had a student doing graphic design for the One for All artist. I had a student working in the Maymont Nature Center last summer. I had another student doing graphic design at Making a Difference for You, Inc. I had one of my students that is now at VCU doing urban and regional planning. He had an internship with VDOT. And then because UMFS, our organization, is such a large organization, we have various locations on our campus, from our finance department to our marketing development to any administrative things. But I've had several students placed on our UMFS campus as well. So work experience, why this is important. So a lot of our students are working toward a degree at Reynolds or Brightpoint, either a certificate or an associate's degree in their area of interest. But they need to apply that knowledge that they're learning in the classroom and into the real world life experience or real world work experience. It's also important in internships and jobs to use those or learn those transferable skills that can be used in pretty much any job. Those communication skills, work etiquette, all of those things that we know can be used in pretty much any job. So building those skills as well. Also building workplace social skills. So how do you speak with your supervisor? How do you speak with a colleague? What do you do in the lunchroom? Kind of things like that that are that we kind of take for granted in our everyday life. So building those skills in a safe environment where with the supports that we provide. So on the end of another piece of our program is why college? Why would this be a good step for some of our students? So it builds independence. High school, there's a lot of teachers and parents that are involved. It's another step that you're building these independent skills. You're having to manage your classwork pretty much on your own. Professor will say this assignment's due in 2 weeks. They expect it to be turned in. So it can be scary, but it also can build a sense of pride that you're able to build that independence as well. The students learn more about who they are. So maybe they're exploring different classes and they find out, wow, psychology is really interesting to me. And this is kind of an area that I want to study. I never thought of that before. Or, wow, I really am a good writer. Maybe I'm going to hone in on that and use that as a skill later on. And it also creates more opportunities to socialize. You're in a different environment than you were in elementary, middle, and high school. These are new sets of friends. The clubs that I mentioned earlier, people that have the same interests as you, even in your classes, as you get into your upper level classes that are in your major, you're finding things that are in common with people. So you might want to socialize with them and hang out with them more. On the flip side, things that we need to be on the lookout for, as I mentioned, independence. Maybe they're not used to this independence. It's a lot of hands-on with the students, with their or their high school teachers and their parents previously. So going out and saying, "All right, go do your homework," will be a lot of change for a lot of our students. The lack of structure. You're not in class from 8 to 4 every day, or have these times that you're going to, you have history, then math, then lunch. It's not like that in college. So the lack of structure can be a change for a lot of people. Additionally, it's going to be more intense coursework in college. It's a step up. It's higher education. So while we have the 4 9 weeks or 2 full semesters in one course in high school, they're put into 15 weeks. So the coursework's going to be harder. It's going to be more advanced, but in a smaller amount of time as well. So with that comes some challenges. There could be difficulty socializing. You are in a new environment with people that you don't necessarily know. Maybe there is a couple of friends that came from high school, but majority of the people in the environment are new. So it might be difficult socializing. We spoke about this earlier, but some difficulty with self-advocacy. It's not the same teachers that you had all the way through high school. And this is a new person, maybe they're a little intimidating, and just going up to them saying, "Hey, I need extra time on my test," is a little intimidating. So we need to build those self-advocacy skills. Autonomy of college, we talked about that independence. You're expected to go in and go into class, take notes, leave, and understand what's going on to do the assignment. It's a little different. Also, there's could be some increased anxiety and difficulty responding to it. In a new environment, it's going to come with different anxieties. I have anxiety of my first day back with my students every semester, just because it's a different group and it's a different different things every day. So the way we deal with it, we talk about that mindfulness group. Can we build those techniques to how to handle when we get anxious, and to be able to advocate that I need support, or find out what works for them to be able to get through the anxiety, or at least manage it so that they can get the coursework done. We talked about it a little bit, but transitioning from high school to college is different. It's an exciting major life change. I'm very proud of our students that they've transitioned into this next phase of their life, but it can be challenging. So let's talk about some strategies to make it a more smooth and successful transition. So effectively managing your time with your college schedule. As we talked about that lack of structure, a good piece of that could be that you pick your own schedule of classes. Like I said, Emma and I are there on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday with the students. So we encourage them to take classes during that time that we're there. And we also encourage them to space them out a little bit if that works for them. So maybe they have a class from 10 to 12, have a little bit of a lunch break, and then have a class from 1:30 to 2:30 or something like that, so that they're able to manage their time and pick their own schedule. Maybe that one student is a morning person, so they take their classes in the morning. Maybe somebody else is not so much a morning person, so they can pick their classes in the afternoon. I will say, after COVID, a lot of the classes are online now, which can be a good or a bad thing. I personally am not an online person all the time. I'm adapting a little bit, but we have built into our program where if our students have only online classes but need that support, they're welcome to come to the college campus with us and sit with us, and we can help them navigate that class, even if it's just online. So we can build in that structure for them, even if it's not there. This is kind of just an example of what I talked about. Maybe they have a class from 11 to 1, and they have another class from 1 to 2:25. Get their classes over with, check in with us, and do some schoolwork, and they can be done for the day. But they have the freedom of choosing which classes and when they take them. In addition to managing your time in college, we encourage students to use some kind of daily schedule. So whether it be a Google Calendar or their Canvas accounts, which is their portal that they use at the college, is a Google Calendar. So they can access that, and we can help them manage their time throughout the day. Another piece is prioritizing your most important tasks. So maybe you have an assignment that's due Friday, and then you have another paper that's due in 3 weeks. We're going to encourage you to finish the one that's due Friday and then break down the one that's due in 3 weeks so that it's more manageable. Also being proactive with your supports. So this is not built in for everybody to just go and ask for help from Kelly or Emma, but we build that relationship with them to encourage them to come to us when things are getting kind of unmanageable or they're feeling a little uneasy about their class. So we can help them manage their time while they're in school. This was an example of the Canvas account. So for example, all of these assignments have been complete and they're marked out, which is really nice. And then the ones that still need to be complete have not been marked out. And that's for their assignments on Canvas. I talked about the prioritizing of most important, prioritizing most important tasks. Some assignments are worth more points than others. So maybe there is a paper that's worth 200 points, and maybe there's a discussion board post that is worth 20 points. Of course, if you are in over your head and your paper is due tomorrow and your discussion board post is due tomorrow, prioritize the one that's worth 200 points so that you can get the most out of it. And then I talked about prioritizing upcoming deadlines, making sure the ones that are sooner are completed before the ones that are further out, but also not forgetting about the ones that are further out and chunking those off a little bit so you're not so overwhelmed. Being proactive with the supports. So not waiting until there's a problem to go to a tutor or professor or an advisor. Easier said than done, because many times we don't ask for help until it is we feel in over our head. But with our weekly check-ins with our students, if things start getting off, even if they haven't come to us and saying, I think I need a tutor, more than likely I've already said to them, hey, let's go ahead and check in with the tutoring services and see what they can provide. Or we have a tutor here at UMFS that is, specialized in this area. We're going to go ahead and bring those in. Definitely not going to force it on them, but strongly encourage that they use those supports. Also, reaching out to a professor or advisor to find out how they can improve or, what class it is that they need to take afterwards. I already spoke about this, but the free tutoring at most colleges. So using those, it's part of your tuitions. I say free, but it's really part of your tuition. Also using the Office of Student Accommodations or the Disability Services Office, based on which college you go to, depends on what name they call it. But not only going there and getting those accommodations, but making sure that your professor is aware that you have accommodations. Don't have to tell them exactly what you have accommodations for, but just making sure that they know what accommodations are helpful to you for you to be successful in their class. And then also using our supports at Courage to Succeed. Just communication. That's what we say to our students is, even if you don't know what to ask for help, just say you need help or you're struggling in an area, and we can problem solve together to try to figure out what supports we can put into place. Applying for accommodations in college. So accommodations, for those that don't know, are basically your IEP or a 504 plans that you would use in high school, but in college, it's different. In college, you don't automatically have them, so you have to apply for them. A new student coming to the college, or if they're already at the college and would like accommodations, needs to contact student accommodations office or the student accessibility services at least 3 weeks prior to the semester, or as soon as possible, because it takes a little bit of time. You're going to request services on their website. This is at Reynolds and Brightpoint. And then they will reach back out to you to set up an intake meeting. So then in the intake meeting, they're going to talk to you about what worked for you previously and what you think will be helpful in college. If you're a returning student, there's no need to reapply, but you'll need to request the accommodations on their website each semester. However, I just found out on Reynolds today when we were doing this for each semester, they're automatically doing it now, which is wonderful. So once you have accommodations, you have accommodations. They're not going to take them away as long as you remain at the college. But you can adjust them if there are additional accommodations that need to be added. It's just another reach out to their accommodations office and letting them know what would be helpful. Communicating with professors is very important. So using professional communication. So we talk about in some of our groups too about writing a professional email. So not only be using this with professors, but in the workplace later on, speaking professionally with your professor, calling them professor, whatever, not just Joe or by their first name. And then just the format, and we go through that in one of our independent living skills lessons, but also help the students compose these emails. Using the office hours. So we encourage students to go to professor office hours. Many professors, even if they only have a certain amount of office hours, if you reach out to them in an email or in class, they will make time outside of those office hours if those office hours don't work. Also through their Canvas accounts, you can communicate with your professors through their inbox, or they might have a portal that they use as well that the professor will let you know. Spoke about professional email communication. They will also let you know what their communication preference is. I have one professor that one of my students had this previous semester that actually gave them his phone number to text them. Don't usually have that. I personally wouldn't want that, but that was their preference for communication. Most of them will communicate through email or through Canvas. Also, disclosure of your disability. Like I said, you don't have to let your professor know what your disability is, but letting them know that you have accommodations and what works for you, works best for you to be successful in their classroom. And then, as I mentioned at the beginning of this discussion, we send out a professor advocacy letter each semester. So it's a template that explains Courage to Succeed and tells the professor that the student is part of our program, and then also has Emma and my contact information in it so that they can be a part of we can be a part of their communication. And this is just an example of how one of the professors asked the students to professionally write an email. So it's basically telling the student that they have 90 to 150 students. So they need to be very clear on who they are and what they're asking for in the email so that they can have time to respond in an appropriate way and also make sure that their questions were answered. Yeah, so this is just an example. Speaking of disclosure in the college, like I said, it is ultimately your decision if you want to disclose and if you want to at all. But they do need to know about your disability if you want to receive accommodations. So you can advocate your needs without saying your disability. So you can say, I work best with extended time on my tests and quizzes in a distraction-free room, but you don't have to say the why. So you can just say your needs without saying your disability, and we help students with that as well. I spoke about this earlier about our student life, getting involved with student life. Like I said, each of the campuses have a student life organization. So they have field trips and clubs and organizations. They do service projects, sports, educational events, social events. If students are interested, we can go with them to the first meeting or so, make sure they're getting connected with the right people and see if that's something that they're interested in. But we really encourage students to get involved on campus if that's something that they like. They have some really cool clubs. This is an example of Reynolds is on the left and Brightpoint's on the right. Some things on here, like if you see Brightpoint has an anime club and then it tells you their advisor and the student leader. They have a gaming club, an art club, but pretty much any kind of interest that a student might have, there is a club for. And if there's not, there's a form to fill out offering or asking to start a club. So lots of different opportunities for the students to get involved on campus and finding people that they have the same interest in, or finding people that have the same interest as they do. Part of that is communicating with fellow students. So looking for people that are in the similar life stage. So they're in college, or maybe they're studying business. Different people in college are at different ages, but maybe they're looking for similar life stages. So maybe they're looking to start a career in an area of your interest. So communicating with that is a great conversation starter. Hey, what brings you here? What are you studying? That kind of thing. So we help students navigate that and work on that in our social skills groups, but also speaking with the students individually to see if that's an area or a goal that they might have. It also gives them plenty of time to meet new people within the class and in the student organizations. On campus, there's a lot more people to socialize with than that have the same area interest. Another piece of this is it takes time, so be patient. So I don't go out and just meet a friend as soon as I meet them on the street. So just be patient with yourself. It's not going to be something that happens overnight. So we can help navigate that, but also know that pretty much everybody is doing the same thing as you. And it's probably nerve-wracking like it is for you as well to meet new people and to become friends with them. This is the end of my presentation on Courage to Succeed. I will say that here's my contact information. We are always willing to answer any questions. I would love to connect with anyone that would like to come take a tour at Courage to Succeed. On a Tuesday or Thursday is when we're at UMFS, and Monday, Wednesday, and Friday we're at Reynolds or Bright Point. Tuesday, Thursdays are our days that we like to do tours. I would be happy to speak with you, set up a tour with you and your student, or just answer any questions that you might have about Courage to Succeed. Thank you so much for your time, and I hopefully will connect with some of you soon.
Thank you so much, Kelly. I know although some time ago, I remember navigating all those pieces of going to school, and it is a lot. It's a lot to kind of take in, and it's a totally different environment from the high school environment. So it's great that your program helps make that more accessible for young adults. We did have one question that came through in the chat, which is, do you also work with students in the PAVE program at Reynolds?
So we have not. I've worked closely with PAVE. However, they do have a very supportive program where they're very hands-on, and it is, I believe, Monday through Friday based on their area of study. Not saying that we won't work with anyone in the PAVE program, but I believe their schedules are a little bit different. So we would have to talk one-on-one to see basically what your student's schedule would be and if we could make it work.
All right, great. Thank you. And I don't see any other messages in the chat right now. So we'll go ahead and switch gears over to Paula and the GRASP presentation. And then I hope if you're able to hang around, Kelly, we'll give participants an opportunity once we stop recording to see if they have any other questions for you. Okay, thanks. All right, Paula, take it away.
Okay, let me pull mine up here. And where did mine go? Yet again, we've got yeah. Can everyone see that?
Yes. Yeah, I think we're
Okay.
good.
Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Paula Buckley, and I work for a nonprofit organization called GRASP. And we focus on helping students through the financial aid process for post-secondary education. As I said, we're a nonprofit. We are now in 111 schools in Virginia. We're in a lot of the big high schools that are, county schools. But I've been at Northstar because we've had an advisor there for the past 15 years. And we've, focused on helping students with the financial aid process for post-secondary education. Our advisors, we meet typically one-on-one with students and or parents. We help with the financial aid process, which I'm going to talk a little bit about, which includes everything from the FAFSA to helping students look for different scholarships, to understanding financial aid award letters and packages, and just, helping them look for other opportunities. And as was mentioned earlier, at the schools that we have advisors, we do have some scholarships. We have what we call our last dollar scholarship, which is one at each school that has an advisor. And then we also have one that we now call the community college scholarship, and that is for students who plan to start at a community college and transfer to a four-year college or go to community college for a workforce credential. When we meet with students and families, we have, a variety of ways that we were able to do that. It used to be that we were, pretty much strictly in person and, email, phone call. But then we've also got now text messaging. And then with the pandemic, we started also, with video conferencing because it was, important that we were able to meet with students and families. And we found that works. And actually, in some cases now, if we're helping somebody with that pre-application for federal student aid, sometimes it's almost easier to be, virtual because they can share their screen so we can see what they're looking at for them to be able to ask questions. When it comes to the financial aid process, we encourage, students, families to learn as much as you can about, the cost, the process. Colleges now have something called, navigators to be able to see if you have an estimate of your income to put in to see about what the cost would be, net price calculators. So it's important to just become familiar with all the different financial aid forms and the things that you need to do, because when it comes to college, there's like the track of applying to the college and getting accepted, but then there's also the financial aid track, which is, a separate path that has to also be done at the same time. The big thing form that people need to complete is what's called the FAFSA, free application for federal student aid. But there are also a couple others that you might see or hear about. There's a newer one called the VASA, which is the Virginia Alternative State Aid Application, and that is for students who it's citizenship kind of based. So if they're not eligible to do that FAFSA, they can potentially do that VASA and possibly get some Virginia state aid. There's something called the CSS profile, which you can access through the College Board website, which is what is used when students are taking the SAT. And certain schools use that because it asks for even more financial information because they're trying to, whittle down to get the most financial need or students getting the most financial aid. And then there's college scholarship applications, and there's a variety of those. There's colleges have their own applications for scholarships, but then there's also a lot of other outside scholarships that students can apply for. Various steps to financial aid success. Well, the biggest thing is like paying attention to dates of when to file things and not missing those, whether it's a scholarship, application or the FAFSA or VASA or CSS profile. Those colleges will have a priority filing date, which you can find on the school website, and that's where we encourage people to get those forms completed by that date, because that's when the student will get looked at for the most amount of potential financial aid. When we talk to students about, the financial aid process, we encourage them not to get necessarily emotionally hooked on one particular school, especially if finances do matter, because every school's financial aid package is going to be different, for that particular student. So we try to talk about all the possible options and things to consider. and then just encourage students to apply where they're interested and then see, what they get back. And then we can help them look at those financial aid award letters as well, to determine, how much additional they might have to pay for each one. Also, we encourage them to, maximize all the resources they have at their school or other, sites and things like GRASP as well. And we also encourage them to constantly be looking at their email. You know, colleges, typically that's how they, course or communicate with students nowadays. There's not so much that comes in the mail or whatever, and we encourage students to read everything they get. And if they don't understand something that is in one of the emails or whatever, to ask someone, because there's plenty of people around who are available to help interpret, what those emails might be saying. This is the cover for this year's opportunities book. It's a publication by a company called ECMC, but it has a wealth of information, both about the college application process, but then even more information about the financial aid piece. And we use this when we're working with students and families as kind of like a guidebook, and it's also something they can refer back to. There is a link to be able to get that online, because it's like I said, it's just got a wealth of information about the financial aid process in particular. When we talk about the FAFSA, people often wonder, okay, what happens after I do the FAFSA? What's the purpose of it? I'll backtrack a little bit about the FAFSA. You may have recently seen some things in the news about the new FAFSA and what's been happening with that. Several years ago, Congress, decided that, we needed to do some FAFSA simplification, that it was, a complicated process, and they were especially looking to simplify it for, students who may be first in their families to go to college, that type of thing. So there was this legislation for federal student aid to update and redo the FAFSA. Well, like I said, the legislation was a couple years ago. And normally the FAFSA for seniors comes out, the updated version, each year, October 1st. Well, early, like a year ago, we constantly get trained in the financial aid, things and changes. Last year at this time, they were already saying, the challenges of this new FAFSA, et cetera. Long story short, as the year progressed, they were first like, well, it's not going to come out October 1st. It's going to come out in December. Well, it finally came out December 31st of 2023. And they even termed the soft launch. So when people tried to start it, especially that first week, there were so many periods where it was down, and there still are a lot of hiccups along the way. And it's, hiccups not only with the students and families trying to get it completed, but also for the colleges, because normally they would start getting information on students' completed FAFSAs within a few days of when the student did it, after it was processed. Now, the first information is not even going to get to the colleges this year until the end of January. So I'm just letting folks know that if you have a senior this year, don't feel like you're singled out with the struggles if you're trying to complete that FAFSA, because it does have problems this year, but we're available. If you don't have somebody directly at your school, through our website, we have an advising at GRASP for VA email that people can reach out to if they're trying to get assistance. So from that, basically still what happens once the student has completed the FAFSA is the college financial aid office will take what the total dollar value is for the cost of attendance, subtract what's the result of the student's FAFSA, called the SAI, which stands for Student Aid Index. And the resulting number is that student's financial need to attend that college. And then the financial aid office will work with, whatever resources, whatever the index number is, to determine what financial aid that student is eligible for. So the big thing that we try to make sure students and families know is that it's really important to do the FAFSA, because if you don't do the FAFSA, you're not eligible for any kind of federal student aid. And oftentimes, the college, if they have their own financial aid too, they require the FAFSA as well. So if you don't do the FAFSA, typically you'll just get the bill saying this is what you owe. The different types of financial aid that you might see, everything from merit scholarships, which is not based typically on the FAFSA results, athletic scholarships, grants, which is typically based on the FAFSA results, work study. Typically students who have need are the ones that are going to be eligible to get that federal work study opportunity. And then there's loans. Students who do the FAFSA are automatically eligible for federal student loans. And typically your first year, you're eligible for $5,500. And then your second year, it's $6,500, and third and fourth years, $7,500. And it can be broken down based on your student aid index number. Some students, if they're lower income, might have it all be unsubsidized loans, but very often it'll be broken down into a portion of that 5,500 is subsidized and another portion is unsubsidized, meaning the interest doesn't accrue until the student has finished their schooling. The other type of federal loan is a Parent Plus loan, and parents can apply for that type of loan. The student loans, they don't have to start repaying until after they finish their education, and there's first a 6-month grace period. For the Parent Plus loan, as soon as the parent starts taking any of that Parent Plus loan, they have to start paying back on it. So that's another difference. As I mentioned earlier, this is the new change this year for the FAFSA. It did come out very end of December. Once you get into it, it is easier to complete. The challenges and changes that are, to me, the biggest that people face straight up is that in the past people did have to have FSA ID to get into it, but now there's a student section. Then they have to invite the parent by the parent's social security number, birth date, email, and name. And then the parent goes in and does their portion. And it's not called parent anymore. It's called contributor, which is a change. So, and the getting into the form in some cases is talking to students today when I was at one of my schools, seems to be one of the bigger challenges, and what I've seen also in what federal student aid has had on their sites. But again, we're hanging in there, and people will get through with it. But it's just a little bit bumpy this year. So these are some of the steps to get the FAFSA done. You want to definitely, make sure you get it filed, and preferably before the college's priority filing date. Make sure you keep checking your email regularly and respond to whatever the college is asking for, as well as once you get notification back from federal student aid after your FAFSA is processed, if there are any glitches or things that need to be corrected, you need to make sure you respond to do that. And then again, like I said, GRASP is available to help people with the process. This, as I mentioned, is information about that VASA. It allows certain non-citizen students who are not able to complete the FAFSA to be considered for federal, if they're not eligible for federal student aid, they can be considered for certain Virginia grants. And the website there at the bottom, vasaapp.org, it asks various questions of students, and that's how they determine their eligibility and gets them into that. As I mentioned, also, there are some additional forms. Colleges may have their own specific financial aid forms that they would email to the student. Also, certain schools do require that CSS profile. Some of the ones in Virginia include William and Mary, University of Richmond, Washington and Lee, and University of Virginia. And again, make sure you check on due dates, because that's one of the things that's really important, so that you don't miss out on any potential financial aid. This is a sample financial aid package that a student might see. As you see at the top, it starts with the cost of attendance, and then the student's student aid index number is subtracted, and then the initial need for that student is $25,000. The financial aid award packages are broken down by fall and spring, and then you see the total. In this particular case, the student is, if you combine the subsidized and unsubsidized loan total, you'll see that's at $5,500 that I mentioned is what the student's eligible for in their freshman year. The student is eligible for some federal work study to the amount of $2,000 each semester. If a student is offered federal work study and they accept it, they need to find out from that school, how do I get one of the federal work study jobs? They apply and then they work up to their dollar limit each semester. So they don't have that money until they get one of the work study jobs and work the hours to get the money. And typically, students will get a paycheck every 2 weeks, earning at least minimum wage. And oftentimes that's what they can use for miscellaneous expenses. In this sample, the students getting a university grant of $2,000. They're eligible for that some Pell Grant amount. And then that VGAP grant, that's a Virginia type of grant. So the total financial aid package is $18,300. But as you see, there's some unmet need, which the student might be able to fulfill either if a parent applies for a Parent Plus loan, if they have any savings, any checking. So that's where we want students to understand that but very often there is unmet need that students still need to come up with to be able to cover the costs that are required. We are at GRASP are big proponents of the community college system because the cost of attendance at a community college is about a third to a half of what a four-year public college is. So for instance, even if a student doesn't have any type of financial aid, they can do 2 years at a community college for less than the tuition and fees cost of like a four-year public college, the closest of which to us is VCU. So you can see there's a huge dollar difference in the cost. And Virginia has transfer programs so that students could take guaranteed transfer agreements where they can take and get their associate's degree and then transfer directly to the four-year college. Oftentimes they can get a lot of their general education requirements out of the way through that. And at the schools that have a GRASP advisor, students are eligible to apply for our community college scholarships as well, which is a renewable scholarship for the second year for the student too. So there's just a lot of good options with community college. Additionally, students attending community college can apply for the scholarships that the community colleges have. And then for the two that are in this local area, Bright Point and Reynolds, they both have one online scholarship application that students can apply, and then they don't have to apply individually for all the different scholarships. The colleges then determine who would get those particular scholarships. So we really, if a student's attending a community college here, they should apply for that, community college scholarship because they might, get one of those as well. And those, I know like Reynolds has hundreds of thousands of dollars of scholarships of their own. So it's something students should definitely consider doing. Another nearby school here in Virginia into the Richmond area, it's down in the Petersburg area, is Virginia's only junior college, and that's Richard Bland. Their tuition and fees is a little bit higher than the community college. One big difference is that they do have dorms and a dining hall. So it's, students are able to live and attend school there. And they have transfer agreements as well with a number of Virginia colleges, four-year colleges. Fee waivers, students, if they're eligible for a fee waiver for like the SAT or the ACT, they can often qualify for a fee waiver for college applications as well. And there's a couple other ways that students might be able to get their application fees waived. We just encourage students and to contact the colleges, the admissions office if they want to ask for a fee waiver. Contact the financial aid office if they have a particular circumstance that might be unique that that they might get some other waiver for their particular situation. And when it comes to borrowing money for college, for the federal student loans and those Parent Plus loans, FAFSA completion is a requirement. We generally will say, oftentimes loans, student loans or parent loans are needed to help cover some of the costs. The federal loans are often, the better option to start with because they have fixed interest rates and oftentimes their interest rates are better. There are other ways, to get loans through, private institutions. We don't refer anybody specifically to things like that, but we just talk about the process. And as I mentioned earlier about the repayment for students, it's not until they finish their schooling, but for the Parent Plus loan, parents do have to start paying back as soon as they start taking those loans. And for the students, it's not, they don't look at your credit rating. It's just FAFSA completion to be able to get those. We have expanded, the things that we talk about as GRASP advisors because not all jobs require an associate's or a bachelor's degree. There are a lot of other great options, technical and trade schools, apprenticeships, the workforce and career certificate programs that community colleges have, as well as the military. So we encourage students to look at all the options that are out there, and think about what their interest areas are. These are just some pictures of some of the career program schools in high demand today. When it comes to the workforce credentials, the community colleges, they have kind of like two sides to them. There's the workforce side, and then there's the side that has more of the college courses. When it comes to the workforce side of the house, there's a lot more options for getting funding. There are two fairly new programs. One is called Fast Forward, and the other is G3, which are all funding sources. G3 is a state funding source, but basically at each community college, they determine what are the in-demand workforce credentials that are needed for jobs through the businesses that are in that area. And that's where they're through Fast Forward as well as G3, there's a lot of funding that's available so that students could potentially get the training for those credentials at little to no cost. So if you, for instance, if you want to check out which ones are available, if you go to Reynolds website and just type G3 programs in the search bar, you can find out which specific programs. There's medical, IT, a variety of programs that are available. And it's, and you could do the same at Brightpoint as well. And I recently was talking to somebody who was had already done a grief counseling program at Brightpoint, and then was also doing another program, but actually had an internship and everything. So it's a great option to consider, because you can oftentimes get some of these skills and get a job. And then if you wanted to continue on to continue your schooling, you could still be doing that as well. And here again is a little bit more about the Fast Forward to G3. When it comes to apprenticeships for Virginia, if you go to the Department of Labor for Virginia website, that is where you can find out about apprenticeships. You can, through that site, you can look on the various types of apprenticeships, and in the various regions of Virginia, you find which businesses might have an apprenticeship, and you need to contact the business specifically for that. And that is the end of my presentation. And I can take any questions anyone might have.
Great. Thank you so much, Paula. I did have a quick question before I jump into a question that came through in the chat. When you're talking about the fee waivers and the different scholarships that the community colleges offer and things like that, is that something that GRASP will also help people navigate and fill those things out, or is it more focused on the FAFSA?
No, we can help. We can provide, for instance, the ones at the community college. Basically, if a student has applied to the community college, they just have to have their student number, and it's an online application to apply, and there's no cost to apply to the community college. And then, we can provide the link for the scholarship application for Reynolds. And basically, it's similar to the, to the application to apply to Reynolds, but basically you just go through that, and then they determine who is eligible for which of their scholarships from that. So we can help guide people to that link.
Great. So you can kind of help them navigate all those other pieces too.
Yes.
That's wonderful. The question that I had that came through was, it sounds like maybe we have someone from out of state that's joining us, and they were wondering if we knew of any similar programs that would be in the state of Georgia. Now, I know that you may not know a specific program in Georgia, but do you know, is there a resource somewhere or certain search terms where someone might be able to find a similar organization to GRASP in Georgia?
Okay, I would recommend either Googling college access organizations in Georgia, or there's something called the National College Attainment Network, which GRASP is a member of, but that is like in DC. And various like entities like us belong to that. And then we get like a lot of guidance about what's coming out with the changes with the FAFSA and all that kind of thing. So they, on their website, they may also have a good roster of
Like somewhere to
what's
search?
available by state, right?
Okay, perfect. That's great. All right. Well, I don't see any other questions coming in through the chat here. Let me just double check. And if that is the case, then I am going to go ahead and wrap up the recording part. Remember for participants that the slide deck and the other resources will be available on the Transition to Adulthood page of the Career Center part of Northstar's main website. And for those of you who are joining us live, you can feel free to hang out after we stop the recording so that you can ask questions a little bit more privately and turn on your cameras. Thank you both Kelly and Paula for your excellent presentations and sharing all of your expertise and your time with Northstar. And thank you all the participants for joining us tonight. We look forward to seeing you at our next Family Education Night program, which is centered around independent living. And that takes place next month in February.